Welcome back for another episode of Husky Careers Unleashed. We've got another awesome guest with us here today, a member of our Michigan Tech family who graduated. Her and I actually were at Tech during the same time, kind of working on our degrees. So to kick off this episode, let's have her introduce herself.
Thanks, Ryan. My name is Clara Peterson. I graduated from Michigan Tech in 2020 with a degree in chemical engineering. Kind of had a whirlwind quick career, and currently I'm working at Niki out on the West Coast near Portland, Oregon, where I work in product development for footwear.
Did you imagine that with a chemical engineering degree that you were going to end up in the footwear industry? Just out of curiosity.
Not at all, not at all. I felt like I didn't know going in where I would end up, but I feel like that's a part of the journey and a part of the fun at the same time.
Well, and it's a perfect example of things we've talked about in a lot of our other episodes where you get a degree in something, but that doesn't limit what you can do or where you can go. So another great example of taking kind of your technical degree and finding a way to leverage it to end up in an awesome opportunity like you are right now.
Exactly. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, today our topic, we're going to be focusing on networking, both in-person networking, online networking, and leveraging tools like LinkedIn to help you discover your kind of ideal opportunities and maybe even land that dream job. So, kind of thinking back to your time at Michigan Tech, what role did networking play kind of in your college time as you were getting ready to progress into your career?
Great question. So I remember attending different career fairs, and that was kind of my first introduction into formal networking. And I couldn't imagine getting my first co op experience actually within product development without those career fairs. So just having a forum where you can talk to people, share your story, get to know what different opportunities there are. And that was my first introduction to product development. Someone took a chance on me at Kimberly Clark, and I was able to join Kimberly Clark for a 7-month co op. Definitely intimidating at the time, delaying graduation, but wouldn't change it for the world, and really fell in love with product development. So I feel like it's a great way just to understand what's even out there because there's so many roles as a kid, as a student that you're not even aware of.
Well, and during your time at Tech, at what point did you start attending the career fairs to kind of dip your toe in and start this networking?
I believe it was my freshman year, but it definitely took 2 rounds to get my first role. So I think it was sophomore year that I actually got my first co-op experience. But I think you need a little bit of technical experience, a little bit of classes under your feet, as well as like, is it the right time, right fit?
Well, and that's a great point to make. So we definitely encourage our students right away once they join us at Michigan Tech to take those opportunities, at least begin the networking side at career fair. Like you said, you may not land your first opportunity right away that first semester or even second semester, but it helps with the recognition of the recruiters that are at the fair because a lot of our recruiters are Michigan Tech alum and they come back time and time again. So if there's a company you really want to work for, starting early to build those relationships throughout your time at Tech is really important. So I'm glad to hear that you did jump in right away when you were at Michigan Tech, and we definitely encourage our current students to do that as well.
Yep, definitely agree. You also kind of learn the ins and outs as well as the bumps and get that good practice in. It takes some time.
So you mentioned Kimberly Clark. Were there any other like major key networking moments that kind of helped shape your career as you were getting towards graduation?
Yeah, I feel like it was just being involved on campus as well. So, being involved in different organizations. My senior year, I had the pleasure of being president of Blue Key Honor Society. And through that, I worked with a lot of small businesses as well as the president, faculty, and other organizations on campus. So, I feel like just using those tools, kind of like I said, just having that practice of getting to know people, building those relationships, and then leveraging those relationships when you need them. I also worked in career services my senior year, where I helped coach students on what I learned over the course of my 4 years within 5 years at Tech. 4 years of classes, but took 5 years because of my co op experiences. And that was super fun too, as well as like learning what questions young students have and how can I leverage my knowledge and help them.
Well, and one thing I want to touch on there is the 4/5 years. I feel like it's really common at Michigan Tech to go beyond a 4 year scope. So, like for myself personally, I was on a slightly longer track. I ended up having 6 years, But I always preface that by saying I had 16 months on co-op. So I did 2 8-month co-ops, as well as I added a minor completely unrelated to my major. So I always like to break it down 4.5 years for an engineering degree, half a year for that extra minor, and then like a year and a half out in experience. So if you're coming into Michigan Tech as a new student and you're stressed about trying to graduate in 4 years, we're both examples of it's okay to take a little bit longer to get that real life industry experience because it can really help shape where you'll want to go, and maybe help you figure out what you want to do by the time you graduate.
Oh, definitely agreed. I wouldn't change it for the world. It was definitely a tough decision making that final yes to the first co op, understanding I would delay graduation. But I also was blessed. I never took summer classes, which is also common. So everyone has their own path.
In your professional career, what kind of role has like the alumni network or fellow Michigan Tech students played in helping you figure out where to go or maybe networking into opportunities?
I think it helped me a lot while I was working on co ops and internships to leverage people I met at Michigan Tech. And I felt like I met a lot of people through tech in those work experiences that I didn't actually meet on campus. My first role out of college was actually a product development role out in Boston, Massachusetts, which was a really big move, especially because it was 2020. The world was shut down. It was really hard to meet people, and I started remote. And I actually really connected well with a small knit group of Michigan Tech alumni
Mhm.
that graduated around the same time. I think we were like a few years apart in the group, and I believe there were 10 of us, and we would get together. So a lot of us ended up out in New England, and we ended up doing game nights and hiking trips. And it was just a fun way to connect, even though I didn't know many of them while I was actually on campus. But I feel like it's a great way to connect with people post graduation as well, because you always have that strong connection of being from tech.
Exactly. And we've got kind of groups of alumni all over the country, all over the world as well. So, regardless of where you end up, if you're not sure if there's a local chapter or something, reach out to alumni relations. And if there isn't one, maybe consider starting one and seeing how many other Huskies are in your area that you may not have even realized were there. Let's jump into kind of a definition based question. What does networking mean to you?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think it's such an intimidating word, but the way I've rephrased how I think about it is building relationships. So instead of kind of awkward conversations with people or making it super formal, it's literally about building connections. I don't know if I want to say friendships necessarily, but building trust between strangers. And it's really helped open so many doors that I didn't even know were feasible.
Yeah, and I think that comes back to kind of the fundamentals that it really is a conversation with another person, and it's a way to establish uh, some sort of a professional relationship that can help lead you into new opportunities. What would you say are some of the common misconceptions people have about networking?
I feel like a lot of people forget that it's not just about taking. Like, I want something, like, I want to work at this company, I want to have this job. And it's not like just a transaction.
Hmm.
You're definitely giving to how can you give your advice, your relationship, your own network, and people you know, kind of an exchange. And like I said, it's really building that rapport, that relationship, that trust.
Hmm.
And you never know that you could leverage that connection in the future or in a time of need.
Exactly. And one of the other questions I had on here was kind of talking about a transactional versus authentic networking, and you kind of touched on it there. One of the phrases we've used in other episodes is an informational interview. So if you're looking to meet somebody in a field or at a company, leveraging something either like the alumni network or say LinkedIn, reaching out to them and seeing, hey, are you willing to jump on a 15-20 minute call with me and just ask about them? People typically like to talk about themselves and brag a little bit. So if you kind of shine the spotlight there, people are very likely to say yes. And then you can also share about yourself and really kind of have that authentic connection versus, like you said, just wanting something out of it.
Definitely. Couldn't have said it better. You hit it right on the nose.
So, when you're meeting somebody for the first time, whether at an event or online in the realm of networking, what's something that makes that interaction memorable to you?
I think being prepared on either side of the spectrum. It's been a pleasure now kind of being on the other side of people reaching out to me for advice, which is still kind of a surreal feeling. But being prepared. So if you're
Mhm.
the one setting up the connection, having questions prepared, I also think it's really nice if you can kind of do a little introduction, a little bit of context about yourself. Because at least me, I understand I'm so busy. You may have reached out a month ago and this is the first time that we
Mhm.
had available at the same time. So to kind of have a little refresher of like, oh yeah, that's why you reached out in the first place. Um, as well as building the connection of like, hey, we went to Michigan Tech, or we both worked at this company, or we both know this person. So having that kind of personal touch, I think definitely makes it memorable, as well as makes people say yes to those conversations, which you kind of alluded to already.
Exactly. Well, in LinkedIn strategies and using it as a networking tool is something that we wanted to focus on. So obviously, I always recommend that people build a LinkedIn profile, regardless of where you are in your education or your career. Think of it as like a living resume where you can put your experiences, your education, and then if you're out on an internship or co-op, adding the people that you work with to your network on LinkedIn is another great way to kind of have access to that network relatively easily versus sorting through emails and whatnot. So, in your opinion, what are some of the key elements to a strong LinkedIn profile?
I think you hit it also on the head right there by creating one in the first place. And it takes definitely a lot of time to build up those connections. Once you hit over 500, I don't know why that's the magic number, but once you hit over 500 connections, a lot more doors open within the platform itself. So, truly trying to build up to that first 500 can really help. I started mine during my first co op, and that definitely was when I was getting people that I had met through my co op through school and adding them as connections. I would definitely take the time to have a professional headshot done. It's really important. It's the first thing people see. Smiling at the camera, try not to do something really cool or you're like looking off into the distance, but making it like approachable, but still professional. And I also recommend using a tool like Canva to create a nice cover background. I can't remember the exact name for it, but like the wallpaper. You can add more tidbits about yourself instead of like a generic photo. And that can also speak to a little bit about more about your personality and your story. And then for the headline, it's really important to utilize keywords. So when recruiters are using LinkedIn specifically, they really search by keywords. So if you're looking for a certain role or title, putting those and some experiences and industry specifics in your headline. And it's really easy. I feel like a lot of people have good examples out there that if you search like some alumni or some other Michigan Tech alumni people, you can get some good examples. Um, and then, like you said, it's like a living resume. I think it's really cool that LinkedIn's more like a portfolio. So your resume, you're going to tailor to the specific role you're applying for, but LinkedIn, you can beef it up and have more content than your resume. So you can kind of showcase, maybe it's more soft skills, maybe it's a side hustle. Like there's more to you than just one role you're applying for. So I think that's really cool. And one aspect about myself I like to showcase is I teach jazzercise dance fitness on the side. So talking about my dance background and how I enjoy teaching and just that different part of myself and how it adds to my skill set. So you can really beef up your profile with lots of different tidbits outside of your resume. And then my final tip will be actually posting on the platform. It's intimidating, but LinkedIn's another good way, similar to networking. You want to be visible to people. You want your name at the top of people's minds when they're looking at another role, a different role on their team. Oh, hey, like I know Ryan or I know Clara, and having that name on the top of their mind is really helpful. So if you're able to post, building that rapport with people, even people you've never met, can help build that trust in those relationships without even actually talking in a Zoom call or one on one. So really posting and showcasing your story is super beneficial. Like couldn't talk about how beneficial it's been for me. It's definitely scary, but starting small Like there's so many different, like I actually took a LinkedIn course online, and you can learn so much about how to build content, but I recommend following like basically LinkedIn influencers and kind of seeing how they tailor their content, and getting some ideas from them as well.
Well, and a couple things to touch on that. I mean, ultimately, LinkedIn is a form of social media. So, like you said, it's a way that you can showcase content in a professional realm, and it definitely can be kind of scary to put your first post out there. The other thing to be mindful of is you don't want your feed to just be filled with the generic stuff of like, oh, there's a new so and so posted a new experience, or so and so is having a work anniversary. So check your settings as well, and you don't necessarily need those little things thrown out, but being able to kind of create a space for yourself. And especially if you want to get into like a niche industry or frame yourself as a subject matter expert, LinkedIn's a great tool to use to kind of put your opinion out there, any of your data, facts, things like that. And then one of the other things I wanted to mention about the headshot in your photo, be sure to check your security settings on your account. I think by default, it turns your photo off unless
Mm.
somebody's like a second connection. And so if you're in a spot where you're really looking to grow your network, potentially be picked up by recruiters that may not be directly in your first, second, or third connections, I definitely recommend going in and changing your privacy settings so that your photo is available to any member of LinkedIn. And I think you can go even one step further if you want, which says make it available to anybody on or off platform. But at a minimum, I would say make it available to anybody on platform because it adds that human touch to your account versus just being a gray circle with a silhouette. And it shows that you're a real person that might be a good opportunity for somebody to reach out to.
Hmm. Yeah, excellent point. I think you're right that it is defaulted off.
And if you don't ever play around with it, most people don't realize that. So now that we've kind of talked about building your profile, the importance of good quality photos, starting to produce your content, what kind of approaches do you use when you are reaching out to new connections or trying to expand your network via LinkedIn?
So if you're starting from scratch, kind of like what we touched on before, having a personal connection or something to relate to this person with. And it could be as simple as I'm interested in a certain company and you see people that post that work at that company, you can comment on their content. And that's another way to kind of bring up a little side conversation. And then you can be like, hey, like this is really great. I'd love to take this into chat or in Messenger. I've definitely done that. You can also cold message people. I think I can't remember how many times you can do that.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have premium, there's definitely a limit. But also commenting on posts is a good way to cold message people. So yeah, highlighting a personal connection if it's your alumni of the same university, worked at the same place, maybe you have the same interests. Like it could be so many different avenues. I will also say it's definitely a numbers game. Not everyone will respond and not everyone will be nice about it. Some people may say no, but a lot of people will just, ghost you and not respond. So
Mm-hmm.
you definitely need to shoot out a lot just to get one. I don't know, on average, maybe like 5 to 10 to get one. But then a tip, once you have a connection and you've done an informational or a coffee chat, I always ask for a recommendation on someone else to connect with
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah.
then it's a freebie and then they can also think about who, based on our conversation, would be a good person to connect you to. And it could be like in or outside of their current company and a good way to network externally as well.
Well, and I love the tip of asking them for a recommendation because odds are they're probably already connected to that person on LinkedIn. And it becomes a lot easier than when somebody has like multiple mutual connections or is a second connection, because it adds some of that sincerity and I guess validity that you are kind of a serious person versus somebody just randomly out there. I know I've gotten requests from people that I have no mutual connections. There's like no seeming correlation to their industry or my industry. And they don't include any note of why they want to connect with me. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but no, because you haven't at least taken the time to attach a note and say, hey, I saw XYZ, wanted to connect about this. But I also love your tip about commenting on their content because, like you said, if you don't have the premium membership to LinkedIn, there's a character limit to how much you can attach in the note when you're connecting to somebody. So, helping to kind of ease that relationship or break the ice through commenting on their content will make it easier to not have to try to write a paragraph and attach it as a note when you're reaching out for a connection. Have there been any message styles that seem to work better for you when reaching out without kind of a direct connection relationship?
I would definitely say less is more. Now that I've been on the other side, even if like sometimes I'll meet someone at like a webinar or a networking kind of event where maybe we didn't connect one on one, but we were both there. And sometimes it's easy to kind of get excited and talk too much in your message. And now that I've been on the other side, less is definitely more. So simple things like breaking up your lines, kind of like an email or a letter, so it's easier to digest and read, as well as just highlighting like the key of why you want to connect, why you're interested, what you're passionate about. And I will definitely say some no's, which is being too direct in, I want this job, here's my resume, I'm going to send it to you, because people have done that and it's an immediate like put off. So you need to build that connection first, that rapport, before you can ask for something. So definitely keeping it short and sweet is also a plus.
And that kind of comes back to that transactional kind of networking versus an authentic connection. You don't want to be just thought of as a transactional of you want something out of this networking opportunity. So I think those are really great points. How would you say that you stay engaged with your network through LinkedIn?
I feel like the best way is posting content, seeing this is what I'm up to, and then people kind of remember your name, and then I'll have people reach out to me or say, "Hey, how's it going?" After I post something,
Mhm.
because I know not everybody posts content. As well as it's a good idea if it's like Christmas time, if you make like a Christmas card or a holiday card,
Mm.
you can also send that as like a, hey, thinking of you, how's it going? Just wanted to say like happy holidays. So something as easy as that is also a good way to follow up. Like if you haven't heard back in a long time on a
Mhm.
message, you could also follow up if it's like happy new year, happy holidays, something like that. Is another good just easy way to like kind of talk about something that you have in common.
Well, and for the folks that maybe are a little bit more nervous to do content or post it, what would you say is kind of the minimum number or the frequency that you should be posting, we'll say per year for somebody who's maybe a little bit more shy?
It doesn't need to be daily. My goal is like once a month.
Mhm.
So like it doesn't need to be a lot at all. I will say in my LinkedIn course, they kind of talked about like tidbits of advice. Like if you post Tuesday through Thursday, you're going to have more interactions because more people are on the platform. As well as like in the middle of the day, like don't post at midnight. You can also, similar to like emails, you can schedule a post. So say you're on vacation and you want to post weekly, you could schedule a post to happen next week, even if you're out of office. But it just start off small, just start off with one, like see what happens, see how you feel. It doesn't need to be like an everyday thing or anything like that.
Well, and I feel like the easiest way to get started is just to kind of do an introduction post. Who are you? What have you been working on? What are you excited about? And again, if you're a student who's just kind of getting used to the platform, playing around with it, maybe a project you worked on this semester or something you're looking forward to in the upcoming semester that other people can relate to. So again, that you get some of that engagement on the content, comments, likes, reshares, things like that. Because like you said, the more content you put out, the easier it becomes to network and the more people that you kind of get exposure to.
Definitely.
Can you share a time that your online networking has kind of led to a meaningful connection or outcome?
Yes. Yeah. Great example. So the reason I actually got into Nike was through LinkedIn. A recruiter had reached out to me. I don't even know how long ago it's been now, maybe like 2 years ago. And it was actually not about a role. but about a webinar series that I
Hmm.
was being invited to. And the only reason the recruiter reached out in the first place was because I had a built up portfolio and profile on LinkedIn, and I was posting content. So I was very visible on the platform. So that was just the starting point. And through that webinar series, I actually met several different leaders within Nike and really connected with one in particular, a senior director within product creation, and met with him every few months, like quarterly.
Hmm.
And then through him met many other people as well. And that made my name visible enough for when I was interviewing, and actually led me to get my current role at Nike. And I still meet with him to this day. Now he's a VP, but just something simple as having a profile that
Hmm.
you put some time and effort into can lead to crazy opportunities like that. It definitely takes work,
Hmm.
perseverance, and time. I will say it takes time to build those relationships, but you got to start somewhere.
Well, and it's definitely not something where it's overnight instant gratification. Like you said, it does take time to build those relationships because you want to go deeper than just the surface, especially when it comes to future opportunities. Because the more you get to know somebody, the more likely they are to offer you an opportunity when something comes up, because you'll be that person they're thinking about because you've had this opportunity to get to know each other and kind of build that professional relationship.
Yeah, exactly. So from starting to build a relationship with this senior director within product creation, since I was interested in product development at Nike, it took probably a year of meeting with him, and that was, quarterly.
Hmm.
So not very many times, but it's still like everybody's busy.
Yeah.
It takes time. So it took me a year, and then through him, he would connect me with other people, and I kind of did what I talked about before, where, hey, can you introduce me to so and so? And it was super awesome that he even introduced me to his boss, a VP at Nike. And I feel like that was huge as an external, young person, being able to network with such high leaders at Nike. As well as it was a great way to learn the ins and outs and
Hmm.
more about the interview process. So I was able to get tricks, things to do, what not to do for the interview process. And then from there, it also took, I feel like, another year, maybe 6 months, of interviewing and just waiting for the right role. Like for the job search process, there's
Hmm.
definitely a little bit of luck and
Yep.
timing. Like you need that right role that's open for you, as well as like being able to interview and it's like you're the right fit for that role. Because a lot of times it has nothing to do with you if you're not.
Yeah.
There was just a candidate with slightly different experience, but it definitely is a slow burn.
Hmm.
So I would definitely start networking if you're interested in like switching careers, switching industries, or wanting to learn more about maybe 3 different companies that you're interested in. Starting today, like starting small by reaching out to a few people every week, and just building up that rapport and those relationships.
And like you touched on earlier, it's really a numbers game. I was always told growing up, it's not always what you know, it's who you know. And so the more people you have those relationships with, the more people you know, the easier it can be to find these opportunities. And I had seen a statistic the other day, and I'm not even going to guess the number because I don't remember, but it was X percentage of jobs are never posted like formally. It's
Mm-hmm.
word of mouth, it's personal recommendation, it's, "Oh, I'm looking to hire this kind of thing." And sometimes roles will even be morphed to fit an individual, and that's just another example of why networking is so important, because you can't always find the jobs posted to LinkedIn or Indeed or anything like that, and opportunities may just kind of unfold before you because you've spent the time and energy building that strong network.
Yeah, exactly. I do have a quick story about
Yeah.
that. So my first co-op experience was with Kimberly Clark, and I actually tried both their B2B business and their consumer business. So understanding selling consumer goods like direct to consumer as well as to businesses, thinking of Kimberly Clark professional products,
Mhm.
and trying out two different segments. And then it was my final summer before my senior year, and I was still looking for an internship. And I was wanting to try a different company just to try something else, but I wasn't having a lot of success. So I actually called up a director at Kimberly Clark who I had good rapport with, and he was able to create actually a different function that
Mm,
I was interested in learning more about. Brand management internship with Kimberly Clark. So I was able to get an internship created for me even as a college student.
mhm,
So it definitely helps building up those relationships. You never know what you're going to get. And even though that's not what I was like looking for at the time, it was
mhm.
still a great experience. And I learned more about product management and the business side and the strategic side, as well as the different product category within Kimberly Clark. So it was still a great opportunity, even if it wasn't exactly what I thought I wanted to.
Well, and that's a great example of you never know what kind of opportunity will come about, and it never hurts to ask. And
Mhm.
so, again, growing the network, having those people that you can reach out to and ask opportunities or questions has paid off tremendously for you over the years.
Oh, yeah. When I graduated, at least my interpretation of the job market was you need to apply for jobs. Like it was about the number of applications you put out there in terms of the numbers game. But I totally switched my perspective when I was looking at Nike specifically and switched in terms of quantifying my job search by number of applications to number of connections I was creating.
Mhm.
So you want to make sure you're holding yourself accountable. I know the job search is tough. The job market sucks right now, but at least for me, I still need to keep myself accountable and kind of have deadlines. So instead of thinking like I need to get 5 job applications done today, why not reach out to 10 people cold message on LinkedIn instead? So thinking about quantifying your metrics in a different way, and also a way that's not going to make you feel miserable if you don't get it. Like something unattainable, like I need a new job in 2 months. Like you don't know if that's attainable or not. So it's better to think about it, change your perspective. Like, why don't I make 30 new connections in 2 months? Or at least connect with 30 new people. So, like something that's more attainable and you can really switch your perspective and kind of really focusing on building those relationships instead of just applying. Because I switched my strategy for Nike and I was looking at some other companies at the time before I got my current role last year. And I was focusing more on building those connections. Can I get a referral for every job application I submit? And that was like my new strategy. So I feel like the job market's evolving. The world is changing. So you kind of have to shift your strategy perspective, even from like pre COVID just 5 years ago. Like it's definitely changed a lot.
Well, and I think that's a great perspective because a lot of times applying to a large number of jobs can feel like you're just throwing information into the void and you never really know what's going to happen. So, by taking the time to build those relationships and have somebody internal to the company that you want to work for, might be just enough to say, hey, by chance, do you know any updates on the hiring process? Not necessarily specifically about your application or anything like that, but if they know the timeline of, oh yeah, applications are still going to be open for another 3 weeks before we start doing anything, it can maybe give you a little bit of peace of mind knowing that yes, it feels like it's taking an eternity, but it's not related to you. It's just related to their hiring process and practices. So another good reason to focus on that network and not just feel like you're uh, aiming for nothing.
Yeah, and having a person on the inside. I will also share this tidbit of advice. Um, when you if like your goal is to get a new job, and once you do, don't stop networking. Especially in this day and age, you never know if you're going to get laid off, moved around. You might end up in a totally different part of like the same organization that you're not happy about. So still keep networking both internally and externally because you never know what's going to happen. And I definitely forgot that tidbit. I used to be so good about that during my co op internship days. And then I stopped after college. It was also a very fast paced environment at the time, but you should always prioritize yourself, your career, where you want to go, and building those relationships still, as well as learning what you like and don't like too. That can change too. So make sure you always set aside I don't know, like a number, maybe 10% of your week to still do that. Like, take the time, even if you're at work, to connect with people on LinkedIn. It's still career related, still have those informationals both internally and externally. It's less work for you later.
Hmm. Well, and I think that's a fantastic point to kind of wrap up our conversation today. We've had a good opportunity to talk about kind of your journey, history, ways to build out and beef up your own profile, and then ultimately leverage that profile into potential new opportunities. So, first, I want to say thank you for taking time out of your day to join me here for our podcast so that we can reach out to other students and share some of the realities of what it's like being out in industry, because there's only so much we can tell them in career services, but it means a lot more coming from professionals like you who are willing to share your knowledge with all of us. If students are interested in connecting with you, do you have any recommendations on like a platform they could use to maybe do that?
I don't know. There's so many platforms, Ryan. Yes, I would be happy to connect through LinkedIn. It's a definitely just couldn't recommend the platform anymore. It's so great. So yeah, definitely reach out if you have any questions.
Awesome. Well, thank you again. And for anybody who's listening to our episode, if you like these kinds of conversations, be sure to hit that subscribe button wherever you're tuning in from today. And if you've got ideas, topics, or need support in the future, you can always reach out to us on mtu.edu/career or send us an email to career@mtu.edu. And somebody from our team is happy to get with you and help you out on your career journey. So we will share more exciting stories and special guests in future episodes, and we will talk to you all later.